Hello, I'm Bobby Cinnamon. Welcome to another topic with about the Major League Baseball postseason. Right now, we're in the 2022 postseason schedule. It's on Tuesday, October 11th. Right now, right now on Tuesday, we have the Philadelphia Phillies going against the Atlanta Braves, the Seattle Mariners versus the Houston Astros, and we got the Cleveland. Well, I couldn't say I can remember what their against Cleveland versus New York Yankees, San Diego Padres versus LA Dodgers. Right now we're in the Division One championship. Division championship. Winner will have a chance to go to the winner has a chance to go to the if they winner will have a chance to go to the playoffs, and that's the American League Championship right now. It's anyone's ball game right now, but who is going to win and who is going to lose? Right now, it's a possible ball game. Take like Cleveland, the Cleveland Guardians. Mostly back then, they used to be called the Cleveland Indians, but they decided to change the name to Indians to the Guardians. Their last championship was in 2000. Their last championship was in 2016 against the Chicago Cubs. What was the odds of taking on the Chicago Cubs? You know, it's not the first time they haven't been to the series. You know, they won the series in 1948, been in the series in 54, 95, 97, and 2016. That was their last time. And it's not like they haven't tried. And believe me, they were the best team. They were the best team in Cleveland. Our best Cleveland Guardians Hall of Famers. One of them was Satchel Paige. He took his team to 1948. He had a chance to play for the World. He had a chance to play for the World Series, just like he took his team to the Negro World Series back in 19 Negro team to the World Series. Well, there was also Earl Wynn, Bob Feller. Did you know Kenny Lofton? You know who Kenny Lofton is? He's been in the World Series a few times, or once, whichever comes first. There's also Frank Robinson, who also played for the Indians. I mean, the Guardians. I don't want to offend them. You know, Willie Mays is the only guy on Earth still living. You know, after the death of Hank Aaron and Frank Robinson, he's the only sole survivor at that time. You know, in 1995, they went to the World Series. In 1995, in the World Series, they get one against the Atlanta Braves. And believe me, it wasn't really that was a tough team to play. check out the roster. The pitchers were Paul Assemacher, Bud Black, Mark Clark, Dennis Cook, Alan Embry, John Farrell, Jason Grimsley, Earl Hershiser, Ken Hill, Albie Lopez, Dennis Martinez, Jose Misa, Charles Nagy, Chad Ogea, Greg Olson, Eric Plunk, Jim Poole, Joe Ross, Paul Shuey, and Yolan Tarvis. Our manager was Mike Hargrove. Ruben Almero Jr., the outfielders, Ruben Almero, Albert Bell, Jeremy Burnett, Brian Giles, Wayne Kirby, Kenny Lofton, and Manny Ramirez. Manny Ramirez was also the greatest ball player of all time. He's been in the series at 2004, and he won the series in 2004 and 7 for the Boston Red Sox. But he also has been in the series too in the World Series. He also been in the World Series with Cleveland. Kenny Lofton was one of the greatest ball players of all time. He's a 6-time All-Star from 94 to 1999. Not exactly that exactly was a tough game back then. Also in the postseason schedule is the New York Yankees. Yeah, they haven't been in the series since 1981. That's when they brought in Joe Torre, who changed everything, who changed the game from the 90s. And that game, the Yankees haven't been in the series since 2009. But in 1996, and from 1981, they've been that was the last time. In the 80s they've been to the series. In 1996, 82, 83, 84, 5, 6. Well, it was kind of like a 15-year drought there. After a 15-year drought, they finally got a chance to go back to the series in '96. And it was also against defending champion Atlanta Braves back in '96. And Joe Torre was one of the best. In their lineup, we had Bob Barger, Ricky Bones, Bill Brewer, David Cohn, Paul Gibson, Dwight Gooden, Steve Howie, Mark Houghton, Scott Kamansky, Jimmy Key, Grimmy Lord, Jim Mercer, Mero Mendoza, Jeff Nelson, Dave Pulvis, Andy Petit, Dale Pauly, Mariano Rivera, Kenny Rogers, David Weathers, John Wheatland, Scott Wally Whitehurst, and Bob Wickham were in the pitching lineup. The outfielders in that pitching lineup was Mike Aldertree, Don James, Paul O'Neill, Tim Raines, Ruben Rivera, Darryl Strawberry, Marnie Williams, and Gerald Williams. Our infielders were Wade Boggs, Mariana Duncan, Robert Einhorn, Cecil Fielder, Andy Fox, Charles Hayes, Matt Howard, Derek Jeter, Pat Kelly, Dino Martinez, and Luis Sojo. Even the famous Cecil Fielder, Derek Jeter, Wade Boggs. Even we had Andy Petit and also David Cohn. We know one thing about Cecil Fielder. He was a star in the Detroit Tigers before he got the chance to play in the World Series. Before he had a chance to go to before he was traded to the New York Yankees. And believe me, that was a tough. Believe me, being traded to the New York Yankees was the best thing for him. Like Derek Jeter. How many the guy's a 14-time All-Star. How many times this guy's been? How many times Derek Jeter been to the World Series? Won the World Series 5 times. I don't know how many times he's been to the series, but it's not easy to keep count of that. But I think 2001 he was there. That was in 2001 World Series back then against Arizona Diamondbacks. Even Darryl Strawberry got to play there too, and the guy was not exactly a Baseball Hall of Fame, but he was in the Mets Hall of Fame. So in the 2022, the Yankees are right now in the division championship, and it could be anyone's ball game right now. And they are going against Cleveland, so we don't know which team is going to win. They may have a chance to go to the American League Championship. If these guys win, the winner will have to face either Seattle or Houston against in the American League Championship. So I don't know what the odds are. Which team is going to go to the World Series? Which team might have a chance? Which American League team might go to the World Series? Even I already showed you 1995, where Cleveland Guardians went to the 1995 World Series and 97 in 2016. But the Cubs, they had a chance. The Cubs had a chance to go to the series in 2016. And believe me, they've been to the National League Championship a million times and won the division, but never ever had a chance to go to the. Never had a chance to go to. Never had a chance to win. So, even after the series, they lost to the Dodgers in 2021, in 2017, and even they went to the wild card in 2018 and 19, National League wild card. So I don't know if they'll have another chance to go back to the series or get a chance to win the National League Championship. You know when was the last time they went to the National League Championship? It was in 2003, and that was a tough game back then. It was in the bag back then. A Cubs fan from like Game 6 against Florida, Game 6 in the National Championship. That was kind of like the cursed. That was cursed back then. When that they had a chance to go to the World Series back then. It was Steve Bartman who could have had the ball. Steve Bartman had a chance to. Steve Bartman who had a chance to go to the World Series back. Who had a chance? Who cost the Cubs a shot at the World Series back then. I think that we could have. If Steve Bartman didn't catch that foul ball, the Yankees would have had a chance to win. The Cubs might have had a chance to win. Might have had a chance to go to the series back then. They were 3-0. Actually, they were 3-1, but Game 6 would have gotten us would have had a chance to get us the series. That was kind of a curse back then that cost us the World Series. And even the Marlins, even after the National League Championship, the Marlins went to the World Series and won it. And that was bad for us back then. Well, the Brave, even the National League Championship right now in the division, even the National Division Series right now. There's also the Philadelphia Phillies and Atlanta Braves, and there's also the Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. Believe me, the Dodgers. Hey, believe me, the Dodgers. When was the last time When's the last time the Dodgers won a World Series? It was in 2020. And believe me, that was a tough game back then. And they were going against Tampa Bay Devil Rays back then. And right now they're back in the right now they're in the division right now, and it could be anyone's ball game. The pitchers in that 2020 Los Angeles Dodgers was like Scott Alexander, Pedro Ballas, Walker Buehler, Caleb Ferguson, Dylan Floro, Tony Gonsolin, Victor Gonzalez, Bruiser Guerrero, Kenley Jensen, John Kelly, Clayton Kershaw, Adam Corres, Dustin May, Jack McGee, Dennis Santana, Josh Soberes, Ross Stripling, Blake Turing, Julio Arias, Mitch White, and Alex Wood. Our outfielders in the 2020 World Series was Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Terrence Gore, Zach McClenstry, Jock Peterson, and AJ Pollock. Our infielders was Matt Beauty, Enrique Hernandez, Gavin Lux, Max Muncy, Edwin Rios, Corey, Chris Taylor, and Justin Taylor. They were the catchers, but I don't think that's important to me right now. I always did forget about why I mentioned the rest of the rosters back then. I'm not going to read the entire thing. It's probably stupid. But I was going to read about who was important, who were these guys, and what was important about this game. Like Dave Roberts. He's been in the series, and, as a player, he'd been to the 2004 World Series back then. And he played for the Boston Red Sox. The Dodgers now have a chance to see if they can win the division and go to the National League Championship, and also get to the series. And I don't know what the odds are, but that's a tough thing to do. See which one might have a chance to go to the series. Take like the 2015 World Series. Take like the Royals. They went to the series in 2014 and 2015, and that was a tough game. The San Francisco Giants versus the Kansas City Royals back in the 2014 World Series. Trust me, that was a total. Trust me, that was a total drought with the Kansas City Royals. They haven't been in the series since 1985. The Royals haven't been in the series since 1985. So let's see here. Let's count: A5, A6, A6, A7, 88, A9, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 1000. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was a 19-year drought, and they haven't even been in any division or American League championships back then. But that changed in 2014. They lost the World Series against the Giants. It was Game 7. That was a tough game. That was a tough game back then. The Royals, the San Francisco Giants beat the Royals in 3-2 in the Game 7. And believe me, that was a 19-year drought back with the Royals in 2014. I thought they kind of, mostly for me, they looked like they should have given up, but not until 2015 when they went back in the series against the New York Mets. It was a 19-year drought with in the World Series, but now it's 20 now the drought was over. They finally won the series in 2015 against the New York Mets. Their manager, Ned Yost, managed the Royals from 2010 to 2019. So he managed the Royals for 9 seasons. That was a game against the Kansas City Royals versus New York Mets. They won 4 games, and the New York Mets only won one. The toughest game ever with the New York, toughest game. That was the toughest game for the Royals back in 2015. In 2016, the drought against the the World Series drought has been on for a long time. When was the last time the Cubs went to the series before 2016? It was in 1945. And believe me, that drought was too long. Even I couldn't count that far. Like 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. Actually, I don't think I can keep counting because I don't even know how long that's been. But it's been a long time since they went to the series. That drought's been for like a long time. I feel like a 60 or 70-year drought in the National League. They've been in the National League Championship Series a few times. Back in 1984. And also again in 89 and 2003 and 2015 before they had a chance to win the World Series. And believe me, the Cubs had a few chances to go there. And that was a tough game back then for both of them. Who was the World Series MVP? Chris Bryant was the World Series MVP back then. And actually, he wasn't World Series MVP, but actually, that was Bob Zobrist. I read that wrong. Well, he was the World Series MVP and for the Chicago Cubs. A guy named Theodore Theo Epps. Theo Epps. Theo Epstein. I kind of said his last name wrong. It's kind of hard to, besides, mostly sometimes I usually forget things a lot of times. The guy was the greatest general manager of all time. He turned the Boston Red Sox and Chicago Cubs. He learned from the Billy Beane thing about how to bring teams together. I think you're planning on doing a biopic about him, about how he turned two teams around. from the Boston Red Sox to the Chicago Cubs. Believe me. And I think I remember how long it took how long it took the Cubs to get back to the series. It was 108 years. That was a 108-year drought. But he is the one. He is the guy who turned that team around back then. I never did ask how he turned that team around. Kind of like Billy Beane. He helped turn the Oakland A's around. He only got him to the division championship or American League championship, but never won it. And Billy Beane was the greatest executive of all time. Was the greatest executive of all time. There were other executives. There were other guys out there who turned teams around. Say like the New York Yankees, Colonel Jacob Rupert. He turned that team around. Did you ever hear Branch Rickey? He turned the LA Dodgers around Brooklyn Dodgers around in 1947 when he brought in Jackie Robinson, and that was a tough game back then. That was tough to bring in a first African American in Major League Baseball back then. You know, look at Theo Epstein. He is like the Michael Eisner of. The guy was like the Michael Eisner of baseball back then, because Michael Eisner could turn any network or production company around, like he did with ABC, Paramount, and Walt Disney. And believe me, the guy likes to hit challenges every day. Anyway, back to the division championship against. There's also the Philadelphia Phillies and the Braves, San Diego Padres, and the LA Dodgers. What is it telling us? What is it telling us about who is going to win and who is going to lose? And let's look at the Philadelphia Phillies. They haven't. They have been to the series. They won the series in 2008. But how many times they've been to the series? But it was 1980, 1983, 93, and 2008 and 9. In 1993, when they went to the series in 1993, that was a tough game against the Toronto Blue Jays. I think no one could ever win that in a million years. Who did the Phillies took on 2008 in World Series? It was the Tampa Bay Rays. Charles Manuel was the manager of the Philadelphia Phillies. He took his team to the 1980. He took his team in the 2008 in the World Series. How long did he play for the? How long did he play for the? He managed the. How long did he manage the Philadelphia Phillies? He started 2005 and ended 2013. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's like 8 years. He managed that team for 8 years. Mostly sometimes, there were a lot of longest managers ever. I don't know any longest baseball managers of all time besides Joe Torre. I think Joe Torre could have turned the LA Dodgers around, but I think his only stop was the New York Yankees. Let me ask you a question. In 1995, how many times the Atlanta Braves went to the series after 95? I'll tell you. You meant 96, 99, and 2021. They've been to the pennant 3 times. They won the pennant 3 times and been in the series 3 times. Now they're back in the division. It's 2022 and they're back in the division. And it's a kind of a 1,000,001 chance. It's a 1,000,001 to see who's going to have a chance to go to the series. Who is going to win the series? Besides, right now the Braves are taking on the Phillies, and it's anyone's ball game right now. Who is going to win or who's going to lose? It's like the NFL playoffs. Last year in 2021, the Chiefs been back to the Super Bowl twice. They lost in 2021 against Tampa Bay, but Buccaneers, and those guys were tough back then. Well, we had Tom Brady in Tampa Bay and also the Patriots. And believe me, the guy won a lot of believe me, this guy won a few Super Bowls. Well, the Mariners had a chance to go to the series a couple times. When was the last time the Seattle Mariners been to the pennant? Had a chance to go to the series? It was 1995. It was a National League Championship American League Championship Series against Cleveland Indians. I think they could have won. Even if no matter how good Ken Griffey Jr. is, I don't think he would have won. I don't know if he could have won. And believe me, American League Championship was a tough game back then. In '95 against Cleveland, Cleveland needed to win. Cleveland needed to win against the Mariners in '95. To tell you the truth, they ever did do a biopic in 2016, Chicago Cubs. It has to be about Theo Epstein, about how he turned that team around. Just like if he had to do one about the Boston Red Sox. Giving myself a breather about that game. The Braves have been in the series a few times. The Braves have been in the series a few times and never won it. The Braves have been in the World Series a few times, even when they won even in 2021, even 1999, it was kind of like a 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. That's like a 23-year-old drought. Tough game, wasn't it, for the tough game for the Atlanta Braves. We had a lot of great players back in 1995. We had great Maddox. in 1995 World Series. You know, the pitching lineup in 1995 lineup Braves, we had Steve Avery, Steve Boatsman, Steve Betterson, Pedro Bourman Jr., Terry Clark, Brad Klontz, Tom Glavine, Greg Maddox, Darrell May, Ray McMichael, Kent Merker, Matt Murray, Ron Nichols, Alejandro Pina, Jason Schmidt, John Smoltz, Mike Stanton, Tom Thobe, Terrell Wade, Mark Wallers, and Brad Woodall. In the infielders, we have Rafael Bellard, Jeff Blauser, Ed Giafalina, Chipper Jones, Mark Lemke, Fred McGriff, Mike Jose Olivia, and Mike Sharperson. And we had a manager, Bobby Cox. That's one thing about being in the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's tough to get it. It is tough for a tough baseball player to get into. Even with that steroid scandal, half the players are usually excluded from the baseball Hall of Fame. The only Hall of Fame they can get into is their team's Hall of Fame. Take Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens. He's even when he was involved in the steroid scandal back then, they excluded him from the Hall of Fame. The only Hall of Fame you can get into is the Boston Red Sox Hall of Fame. Just like Barry Bonds, he was excluded from the Baseball Hall of Fame too. But the only Hall of Fame he's been into is the Giants Hall of Fame, just like Mark McGwire. He wasn't even allowed in the Baseball Hall of Fame either, and they only put him in the Oakland A's Hall of Fame or the Cardinals, whichever comes first. So sometimes it's not exactly fair. Well, there was other players who were excluded from the Hall of Fame, and I'm not talking about Pete Rose. He's in the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. Right now, I think he's gonna. Right now, he's keeping low key. Right now. Whether you like him or not, he still attracts fans, no matter where he goes. There was also a Roger Maris. He was excluded from the Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame. Only Hall of Fame he's been into is the New York Yankees Hall of Fame. Even back to 1961 the season was the where everyone was rooting for Mickey Mantle to break Root's record back then. But Roger Maris is the only one to do it. I never tell you why it had to be Roger Maris, because it wasn't the MVP trophy ceremony where Babe Ruth's wife handed the MVP trophy to Roger Maris. Some of his magic wasn't from Claire went to Roger Maris, and that Bates magic is the only one got him to got him to break that record. Everyone always says records are meant to be broken, but right now we can't. We could root for anybody we want, but the truth is, only the right person can break the record. Roger Maris was the last person on earth anyone could break the record, because no one expects him to. No one would expect him to even win or do it. That's the reason why people thought they could root for Ricky Mantle. So right now it was anyone's ball game back then. The World Series was it? The World Series was. So how long after 2009 the Yankees was in a drought? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 13-year drought. Right now, this is number 14, and it could be anyone's ball game right now if they can if they can win the division and also the American League Championship. And if they can win both of them, they may have a chance to go back to the World Series. Take like in 2010 all the way through 2020. That's the first time the Yankees never been to the World Series in after the 2010 years, 2010 years. They've been in the series in 2019 from 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. In 2000, but 2010, that game was over back then. But in 2020, you never know if they're going to have another chance to go back to the series. Well, even 2000 was like the beginning of the millennium, and when they won the series, and we had Roger Clemens in year 2000, and believe me, we had him to help us out. And what was great? And what was great about having a? And what was great? We had a guy like George Steinbrenner who turned that team around. You know, there were top owners, but one owner we know was Colonel Jacob Rupert, who turned that team around. Back before Ruth came to the game, before Ruth came to the Yankees, no one ever even heard of them or even knew they actually existed back then. That was the Bambino curse against the Boston Red Sox. They've been to the series a few times, but they never won it. And that was the 2004 drought. And they in the last World Series before 2004 was 1918. And right now the Yanks are in a 2000 right now in the 13 or 14-year drought. If we can get to the series, if we can have a chance to win the division against Cleveland. And you never know if Cleveland may have a chance to go back to the American League. If Cleveland wins, it's unknown if they'll win the American League Championship Series. Against it could be Seattle or Houston. Well, even Seattle may have a great chance if they have a great team. So right now it's anyone's ball game against, to like the Phillies versus the Braves, the Dodgers versus the Padres. It could be anyone's ball game. All right, giving him a chance to breathe right now. So tell me, who do you think might win? Who do you think might have a chance to go to the World? Who might have a chance to win the World Series? Well, right now it could be anyone. Any of these four. Right now, it could be any of these eight teams. And right now, I think we're right now concentrating on the American League Championship and the National League Championship, but it could be anyone's ball game right now, and the game hasn't even started yet. Cleveland Guardians may have a chance. Right now the Yankees are probably on top of their game. Right now they're in a third. Right now they're in a 13 or 14-year drought, and the Cleveland Guardians may have a chance to get back to may have a chance to beat the Yankees and the may have a chance to beat the Yankees in the American League Championship, but we don't know because The Yankees were red hot for a long time, and they may have a chance to win this thing. Well, I think I had a book about the, there were not a lot of movie. People know about all the players, but nobody ever done a movie about them. Take like the Cleveland Guardians. The movie Major League helped helped put Cleveland on the map. Cleveland Guardians on the map. Mostly it was called the Cleveland Indians back then, but they had to change it. I don't know why they did, but no one cares. Sometimes I always kind of think sometimes there were other teams out there too. There's also like the Mariners and also the Houston Astros. Right now, it could be anyone's ball game. But they like the Dodgers. Okay, give me 1 minute. They've been in the series. They have. They like 1988. 1988 was the only time they won the World Series and been to the pennant and won the pennant and the series. So that was 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 1000, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It's like a, let's see here. Man, that's like a 39 or 29-year drought. They've been to the series. They won a lot of They've been to the division championships a few times, but never had a chance to get it. And they won a few division championships, but never won the pennant. Trust me, they've been to the National League Championship a million times back then, before 2017, where they won it. But never actually but never had a chance to win win the pennant. But I mean, winning the division and going to the series, that's 1,000,001 chance to get in. But the Dodgers meant the Dodgers had a chance. And believe me, in 2020, it was like a long drought in the World Series. A lot of times I don't. A lot of times you never know what it feels like to play. Playing in the World Series is kind of cool, but winning it is kind of awesome. But like you said, 1,000,001. No one knows no one knows what it feels like. No one knows how tough it is to win it or going there. Besides, any team decides on for each team to go out there and win it or play. When Dave Roberts was the guy who turned it around back then. Just like Joe Torre turned the back in '96. Like I said, sometimes the one thing about games, thing about World Series teams is that you never know what's going to happen. Well, take like the 49ers. I don't know how many times they've been to the Super Bowl, but the last one they won was before 2020, where 2020 was in 1995, and that was against the San Diego Chargers. And believe me, that was a tough team to beat back then when we had Steve Young. Well, there were other teams back in San Francisco, but no one know. But I think that was strictly it. Well, besides San Francisco, we had the Dallas Cowboys, and they haven't been in the series since '96. They haven't been to the Super Bowl since '96. You know, they've been to the playoffs, but never got far. I don't think they ever. I don't know if they ever got a chance to go. I have no idea if they ever went to the National League NFC Championships before. I think they did, maybe not, but I never know. Hang on. Nope, never went to national. Never went to the. Never won national. Never won an NFC Championship before. But they've been to the playoffs a few times. But it wasn't easy for these guys to win it. Being in a losing streak, being in a drought is not easy for the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe in 2022, maybe a year they could turn it around. So I take a look at the Chiefs. They've been the last Super Bowl for 2020 was in 1970, and that was a long year, and that was I feel like a 30 or 40 or 60-year drought. They've been to the playoffs They've been to the playoffs, but never won it. Besides, they usually get eliminated in the first round in playoffs. The Dodgers, you never know if they can actually go to the National League Championship or beat the Padres. Because it could be anyone's ball game. But suppose the Dodgers did win the division, they have to go against either the Braves or the Phillies. Which one of them may win? So it could be anyone's ball game. Suppose that the Dodgers win the National League Championship, or suppose the San Diego Padres beat the Dodgers. The Padres might go to the National League Championship Series. And they may have to face either the Phillies or Atlanta, and they may have a chance to get a World Series. But they may be the first. Maybe they've been to the pennant. The Padres been to the. They've been to the pennant. They've been to the World Series, but winning it, maybe their first chance to win it. Besides, take like Cleveland Guardians. They won the division. They've been to the division. They've been to the National League, American League Championship. Heck, they've been to the World Series. But like I said, it's anyone's ball game. No one knows how long. No one knows if they're going to win or not. The game is always it's about predictable. It's about a choice, but who is going to win and who's going to lose. It's kind of like the National Hockey League in playoffs, because no one knows which team could actually go to the Stanley Cup. Kind of like the Super Bowl. So look at the Chicago Bears. They haven't been to the series. They've been to the Super Bowl in 1986. They've been to the playoffs a few times. But the only time they haven't been to the Super Bowl was I think it was in 2004-16. It was in 2006 they went to the NFC Championship. Believe me, there was Believe me, that was a tough drought back then. After 1986, it was a tough drought back then. But they did. And they have been to the playoffs a million times. But getting to the NFC Championship, that's a 1,000,001 chance. But you never know. Like I said, it could be anyone's ball game, just like the Dodgers. All right, I'm gonna stop right now. Right here, that's it for today. This is Bobby.